Right, exactly. And David Doyle certainly was not charged with the murder.
No.
Now, let's go back to Joan's case. Let's leave that on the back burner for just a second. Now, Joan Webster, obviously when she went missing, there was a great deal of, I can't imagine what was going on with the family at that time, the panic, trying to figure out where is she, and there was a reward set up for her. And if you can just kind of take us through a few of the pertinent things that happened during the time that she went missing and the times that her remains were found, and that was 1990. That was April 18th, 1990, a full 9 years after she disappeared.
Yeah.
So if you, yeah, go ahead.
Here's more or less how it cycled. She was reported missing 3 days after her flight, and that was on December the 1st, 1981. On December the 2nd, 1981, the very next day, Joan's purse and wallet were found. They were found by a man by the name of Anthony Belmonte in Saugus, Massachusetts, off the Lynn Marsh Road or Route 107. And a huge, extensive search went on there. I mean, all kinds of things: scuba divers, helicopters, dogs, even a backhoe digger. I mean, extensive search looking for more. But only her purse and wallet were found in that area. It was quite some time. It wasn't then until January that it was actually ITT. It was reported that the parents put up the reward, but it was ITT, George's employer, that put up the reward money of $10,000.
And George Webster is Joan's father. Okay.
That's correct. And so the $10,000 reward was put up. By this point, there were daily articles in the paper. This became a very highly publicized case right off the bat. That reward came out, and shortly after that reward, there were two anonymous calls placed. One was placed to the Saugus Police Department, and the other one was placed to George and Eleanor Webster, the parents. And that caller was later identified in court records. Her name was Patty Bono, and she claimed that Mr. Paradiso was guilty of both the Marie Iannuzzi murder and Joan. He was responsible for Joan's disappearance.
This came as a tip.
This came as a tip, as an anonymous tip.
Later it was found out to be Patty Bono.
That is correct. And Patty Bono was someone that knew Mr. Paradiso growing up, and also knew one of the police officers involved growing up, a man by the name of Sergeant Carmen Tamaro, who was Trooper Palumbo's superior.
Right. Again, Trooper Andrew Palumbo from the 79 case we talked about is his superiors Carmen Tamaro and Patty Bono. Carmen Tamaro and Paradiso were childhood friends.
That's correct.
Okay.
It was maybe a week after that Joan's suitcase turned up, and her suitcase, and it was reported for years, and it was something that I always believed to be the case, was reported found in the Greyhound bus station in Boston. And the reason I say it that way is because a book that was written that came out 2 years ago in 2008, written by the former prosecutor assigned to the case, Tim Burke, he goes into detail in his book and said the bag was actually recovered in New York. So that's still a very strong question that we've got as far as, where exactly was this bag, and is his explanation for how it got there even accurate? I mean, certainly we're conditioned to believe our authorities and whatnot, but I have some very serious questions as to why was that bag in New York. And it wasn't a typo. I mean, he did go into detail about it. He's had access to files that other people have not, and I would certainly think that he would be knowledgeable, or better be knowledgeable, about information such as that. There was one article I found in 1990, after her remains were found, that did also give the same explanation, and that her bag had been found in New York. So some questions are certainly there that need to be answered. It was shortly after that discovery that the Websters, George and Eleanor Webster, called a meeting, and it was a pretty high-powered meeting. They had 3 district attorneys' offices, representatives from the Massachusetts State Police, the Secretary of the Department of Safety, numerous police agencies, Saugus, Harvard Campus, Boston. I mean, this was a full house. And it was at that point that, they discussed, I'm sure, strategy and any thoughts that they had on the case and kind of the unusual circumstances, because whether her bag was found in New York or Boston, either one, her items had been dispersed. Certainly, was throwing things off and very confusing. It was very shortly after that. At that particular meeting, Tim Burke, an ADA out of the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, was assigned to the Joan Webster investigation, which there really wasn't a case at that time. That kind of confuses me, too. They didn't have a case. They didn't know that a crime had been committed. It seemed like it, but they didn't know. And he was assigned that case along with Trooper Andrew Palumbo. He was also assigned the Marie Iannuzzi case. Now, there are questions as to whether a sister of Marie Iannuzzi called Tim Burke in Suffolk County for an Essex County case. They, applied a very old rule that it was very close to a county line, but really, according to some other documents and some other things that people have recorded at the time that were in the newspaper and also in a book that covered Joan's case, the case was handed to Mr. Burke by, the district attorney, Newman Flanagan.